Council, I would now like to call our special meeting, council to order dated Tuesday, April 19th, 2016 to order. First, I just wanted to mention off the top as well, we have Mayor McPherson calling in. So he's on the phone, and Don, can you hear us okay?
Yep, really good.
All right, thank you. First item, second item, council, is the approval of the agenda. There's one amendment to the agenda which I'd like to put forward, and that's an amendment to include 3.6, fee for service, and a grant made motion and discussion. And I would accept the mover and the seconder for that. Thank you, Councillor Howe. We have a seconder, Councillor McKay. Thank you very much. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Next item on the agenda is our budget report on page 3, dated April the 19th from our Chief Administrative Officer. And Mr. Wall, you have the floor, sir.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to take the floor on this one too. So I just wanted to start by thanking everybody for coming in and taking a look and discussing the 2016 operating plan. As we go through this, we're going to take a look at a number of things, starting with the goals and objectives for 2016, the operating level and financial health of the district, and also giving council options on what operating level you'd like to move forward with in 2016. So over the strategic planning process, there's been a lot of conversation around economic development, which is a very important topic for communities. But today what we're going to be looking at are the real core services that every municipality is tasked with doing, and that is mainly infrastructure maintenance and also service delivery. So with that in mind, I want to go through some of the major projects we're looking at completing in 2016. The first is a core services review. This will give us a complete operational review of the operating of the district, provide us expert recommendations on how to improve the community, improve the efficiency on what we do, and find some cost savings, as well as give us advice on the capital replenishment rate we should be doing, also on services we may look to decrease or increase as we move forward with the community. Next is the SCADA system water upgrades. This is to change the water monitoring system that we have to ensure that we have clean and safe drinking water. If you take a look at this, and some councillors have seen this, this is our SCADA system, and this is what monitors our water safety. Our system right now is so old that the computer that uses it has to run Windows 95 because the software we use to operate it can't go on to the newer systems. When this system breaks down, it needs to be sent down to the United States to fix, and often requires us to hand monitor the water safety for months at a time, something that's very expensive. This will help ensure in the long run that we have an efficient, clean, safe drinking water that will decrease costs as this system will break down less and be easier to repair. On the aquatic sector, we saw during the tour that the electrical systems were out of date and were actually becoming a hazard to the people who were operating them. This year we'll complete the electric upgrades on them, as well as providing council with options on how to move forward with cleaning the water. And also, actually one thing we noticed when we were going through the tour, and what Ken showed us, was that a lot of the repairs that have been done on the aquatic center for the past decade, or really since it was built, were nothing more than band-aid solutions that pushed the problem down the road. And this is going to bring the aquatic center back up to code, as well as, again, bringing to council options on how we're going to clean and purify the water moving forward. Winter sand and salt. This year, Cariboo Road Services let us know that we weren't going to be able to purchase winter sand. So when we went to source it, it looked like we were going to have to pay $100,000 a year to bring in the sand that we needed. By obtaining the Baxter pit, should the environmental regulations clean up, or check out, sorry, we're looking at saving $90,000 a year on the cost of our winter sand. We're also going to be putting in a salt and sand storage facility for better quality spreading and safer streets in the winter. This will bring us in line with what Chetwynd and Dawson Creek do. Right now, this is how we store our winter sand. Out in the elements, it causes it to clump up and harden, which makes the reduced spreading. Doesn't spread as well, also causes damages to our machines and our augers. This is the current salt facility right now. Very bad structural damage. There's Mr. Beal pointing out the fact that the salt, even right now, is pretty open to the elements, so when moisture gets in there, it turns into a rock-like substance and damages our machinery. We're going to be moving forward on installing LED lights throughout the community. The street lights, the library, and the community center, which we estimate will save the district $900,000 over the next 10 years in lighting costs. And for me, my favorite one, maybe Joanne's too. Oh, too soon, sorry. Streets. One of the major things we're looking at is repairing the streets. We know that the streets are failing. We also know the last time we fixed them, it didn't work. So we're going through a three-step plan to make sure that we are fixing the street properly, which will involve this year the entire town checked for leak detection through ultrasonic methods, and paver integrity checking, and finally we'll be doing crack sealing on the middle bench. That's the one that was going to be your favorite. The waste management. So we took a look at the waste treatment plant and we saw that our blowers are getting to the point where they're going to fail us. And if that were to happen, we would not be allowed to discharge into the Murray. It would require about 200 or 300 trucks a day taking our wastewater out of Tumbler Ridge. With the work that we're doing right now, we're going to make sure that we're able to keep going to the bathroom throughout the year, and we're going to be delivering council a report on how we can complete the upgrades to the lagoon to make sure that we can keep going for the next 20 years. In the golf course, based on the recommendations of our previous groundskeeper, we're going to be getting some new equipment, new sand for the sand traps, irrigation system upgrades. Our walking paths, we're going to be taking one of the worst in the district, taking it out, widening the base, and replacing it to take one of the things that we have as the worst and replacing it with the best. So when you take a look at the operating plan for 2016, what is it that council is directing for us to do? They're ensuring that the town has clean and safe drinking water, ensuring we can flush our toilets, taking the first steps to repairing our pool, saving $900,000 on lighting over the next 10 years, creation of rural residential lots, walking path upgrades, the launch of a new tourism brand, an animal control bylaw with the options for people to own chickens, an updated purchasing policy with a local purchasing focus, the creation of Tumbler Ridge's first government-to-business networking session, which will be held May 3rd, a plan forward for complete fixes to the pool, complete fix to town hall, refrigeration plant repairs, community center heating repairs, a new fire truck, and a performance review process, and actually quite a bit more. So I know that the concern at the beginning of this process is that 2016 could have been a lost year for the District of Tumbler Ridge, but from the work that these people have put in, the staff has put in over the past while, what was feared to be a lost year will now be the largest step forward in infrastructure and policy replacement that the district has seen in almost 2 decades. So this is what we're planning to do, and let's take a look at what the cost is. So based on the numbers that we have right now, we can see the 2015 operating plan versus the cost we have for the 2016 operating plan, which represents a 1.5% increase. But this doesn't show what staff has done in the creation of our budgets. This year we had a number of upward pressures by adding a CFO, corporate officer, EDO assistant, as well as the addition of an entire building over at the Vic Center for maintenance, utilities, internet, and the such. So when you take a look at the upward pressures that we've had, when we created the budget, staff was given these directions. We need to build the budget. We'll bring no increases in spending without council approval, which is what you saw through the last couple meetings, with a goal to reduce spending. With that in mind, what we have actually done, managers have reduced our budgets by 4%. And you can see this by taking a look at the base number, taking out the grant and aid increase, which is going to go up a little bit based on the decisions from yesterday, the union agreement wage increase, which we don't have control over, and the increase in the golf course operating agreement. That's because we're buying the food, the alcohol, and everything like that. So we will get more money back on the revenue side, but we still have to account for it in the expense side, which is where you see that increase. So when you take those things out and you see what the managers, our team had control over, we were able to reduce the budget by 4% even with those upward pressures. But to do this, we found some operational efficiencies. We also had to decrease the number of services: litter pickup, grass cutting, sidewalk repair, field maintenance, summer student program, fee waivers, and advertising. So using this as a base, council is being presented with 3 options today. The first option is to leave the budget as presented. This would result in a dramatic decrease in the operating budget of the district. We'd have high likelihoods of budget amendments at the end of the year. You would have a non-responsive administration, a high likelihood of emergency council meetings. We would have decreased services. And this is something that communities going through core service reviews are not recommended to do. And that's because when you make a big change and then you get the core service review, what you get a picture of is a community in flux. Core service reviews are meant to take a look at what you're doing and see where you can improve, see where you can change. If the communities or if the organization is in a big flux when that happens, you don't get a clear picture. For that reason, we are not recommending we move forward with option 1. The second option is to decrease the operating budget from 2015 by 2.5%. This would be a medium to low likelihood in a budget amendment, slight flexibility for administration, and a medium to high likelihood of emergency council meetings. And option number 3 is to decrease the operating budget by 1.5% from 2015. When we take a look at all these numbers, we also need to consider that those upward pressures I talked about a few minutes ago. This option would leave us with the same service levels as 2015. It's recommended for communities undergoing core service reviews. You would have a flexible administration, a low likelihood of emergency budget meetings and budget amendment, and there would be no decreases in services. And again, this is what almost every community that I've seen has done when they're undergoing core service reviews. So when you're taking a look at budgeting and spending, it's often helpful, and this is the option recommended by staff. When you're taking a look at spending levels, it's also often helpful to take a look at what your regional counterparts are doing. So in 2015, Chetwynd produced a $19 million budget. In order to do this, they needed to borrow $2.5 million and transfer $4.25 million from reserves. In 2016, with all of staff's recommendations and the increases that have come from grant and aid, fee for service, and no such, we're looking at a budget at about $17 million. That would require $0 borrowed and about $1 million transferred from reserves. The ability for a town like Tumbler Ridge, our size, to undergo a $6 million capital replacement plan and only need to draw down $1 million on reserves without even need to think about borrowing is a fortune offered to very, very few communities on all of North America. We're one of the only communities that can undertake something like this. And you can see that as well when you take a look with Chetwynd, and when you take a look at Dawson Creek. Dawson Creek in 2015 needed to make $4.4 million in debt payments. In 2016, we're hoping to gain $450,000 in investment revenue. So one of the questions that gets asked, and one of the concerns I know people have, is Tumbler Ridge sustainable without the mines? We've seen what have happened to the mining industry here. We on total, on average, collect about $3.75 million from the mines. Now let's say worst case scenario, all the mines close down. That's not care and maintenance. All the mines close down, the companies walk away, they say we can't do it anymore. We've got no indication that this will happen. It's very, very unlikely that will ever happen. But let's take a look at the worst case scenario. We lose every dollar that we collect from the mines right now. That would leave us expecting to collect $12.25 million in revenue a year. So with the current operational level, so that means we go through the core service review, we don't change a single thing. We take a look at fee for service and grant and aid, we don't change a single thing. We leave everything the exact same way it is right now. We would still be able to do a $2.75 million yearly capital and special project spend. Even without the mines, we are in a solid and strong financial position. Just to note, the one thing that Tumbler Ridge is not in line with, or one of the things we're not comparable with in other communities, is the amount of our core budget that goes into non-municipal spending. So that what that means is things like fee-for-service, grant and aid, and the golf course. Those go into our core budget. In Tumbler Ridge this year, that's looking to be about 9.5% or 10% of our core budget. In Dawson Creek, they operate at about just under 1%. Chetwynd is over 1%. I just bring this to council's attention for something for you guys to take a look at. Tumbler Ridge can afford this. If council thinks that the money going into the community is worth it, we can continue going at this level. If this is something that council takes a look at and says, well, maybe we need to take a look at this and why and how it's gotten to this level, 2017, we can look at introducing a new fee-for-service and grant and aid policy that will help council control and make those decisions in a way that leaves you with a result that you like, or is more appropriate for what you think should happen. So, with all the things we're looking at doing this year, I think the biggest change that council will see is the way that we're planning to carry out the strategic plan. The strategic plan in 2015 was created funneled down through the CAO, and really every single project in that strategic plan went into one department with one person. It left council feeling frustrated that the community wasn't moving forward and wasn't moving forward to accomplish your vision. What we have in 2016 is a strategic plan created that is sent out to all of the department heads and all of the departments. The difference that you're going to see in 2016 is that you have an entire organization dedicated to accomplishing your goals for what you want to see improved in this community. So just to recap, staff is recommending option 3 for the large amount of projects both on policy and infrastructure replacement that we're doing. We feel option 3 is conservative in spending, progressive in action. You will have a responsible and responsive administration, and there will be no need to increase taxes. So I want to thank council for giving me the opportunity both to speak to you and to create this budget. Also want to thank staff for putting this together in the time that we have. It was a lot of work and some late nights for some of us, so I appreciate all the effort that went in. And I'll turn it back to council for discussion and any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. And as I understand it, Mayor McPherson, you have some comments to make?
Yeah, and I'll apologize first because I got a cold. I might cough or that sound funny. I appreciate what staff has done over the last few months. With all the issues we've been through, they have come up with a budget that will accomplish great steps towards our asset management goals. It's going to be a very busy year for staff in 2016, and I would like to give them the resources they need to finish these important projects. We can do this without raising taxes, and this is a responsible spending decrease while we go through a core service review. I agree and hope council does with our CEO's recommendation for option number 3 on his first budget. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Council, we have a recommendation on the floor, which is in and ask for a mover. Councillor Mackay, if you could put that on the floor for further discussion.
Yeah, I'd like to recommend that council direct staff to add option 3 as presented into the 2016 fiscal plan for final reading starting May the 3rd, 2016.
All right, do I have a second for the motion? Councillor Kataka. Discussion, council? Mr. Howe, go ahead, sir.
Capital expenditures of $6.6 million. Is there any breakdown of what the capital expenditures are?
Sorry, Mr. Paul, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Yes, council, it would have been in the last 2 meetings we presented the breakdown of the all the capital expenditures. I didn't bring it forward to this meeting because in the last one there wasn't any discussion. It just seemed to move through without notice, but it would be the same as what you've been presented in the last couple of times.
Some of the big ticket items, $1 million for the
fire truck, the blower systems, the water upgrades, the pool upgrades, the community center fixes would be the big ones.
Okay. Further, Councillor Mackay, go ahead, sir.
Just to also maybe touch on something that Mayor McPherson talked about is that staff, as mentioned, have already reduced the levels over the prior year by 4%. So obviously they're eyes on the ball, and I'm also very encouraged by the efforts of this administration to fully understand what the will of council is in these regards, and that we're heading in the right direction. I'm also really happy to see that there's been mention made of the out of the ordinary about the amount that we spend on grant and aid, because I think that's something that we really do have to take a far closer look at, especially when you compare it with the other communities, not only in this area but pretty well anywhere. So I'd say this is a lot of very, very positive stuff here, and I'm sure happy about it.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion?
Sorry,
Councillor
just one more. We move forward with this option because I've seen them in mistaken in the past. Is this where we are? Like, there's no change in the budget beyond this point here, or the discussions we're going to have later on in the meeting could affect this budget, or what?
Well,
discussions moving forward later on in this meeting could have changes on what's in here, yes. I would say that we are getting very, very close to the point where we're not gonna be able to make changes in the budget, and I would say that meeting would be the 21st. What's decided on the 21st, we're gonna need to go back and have time to prepare this for final readings. And just so council's aware, the reason this timeline is so close is that we have May 10th, 16th is the final deadline. If we do not pass a budget with bylaws in it on May 16th, we lose the legal ability to collect taxes, so that would look at $60 million. So today, 21st, I would say we should really be as close as we can to not making any changes moving forward.
Any further discussion? Another question on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? All those opposed? Motion is carried.
I'm in favor.
Thank you, Don. I counted you in.
Okay, thank you.
All right, council, we're down to 3.2, the strategic priority chart, recommendation here as well. And Mr. Wall, I believe you have some comments?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. The next two items are just provided for information. They've been approved. One of them is just a temporary thing that's going to change, which is 3.3. 3.2 is basically the collection of council's motions throughout the process of strategic planning. So unless there's something council's looking to change, you can just receive this information.
All right, thank you, sir. Council, I accept a motion on the floor for the recommendation 3.2. Councilor Kirby, thank you. Do I have a second? Councilor Mackay, discussion? Call a question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Next recommendation, which is before us, is for information as well. And ask for a mover and a second, if any. Councilor Kurtako and Councilor Mackay, discussion? Call a question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, Council. So now, over to the 3.4, which is on page 13, organizational review, recommendation there, and so forth. And I would call for recommendation number 1 to be put on the floor for discussion. Councilor Kirby, thank you. Councilor Mackay, all those in favor? Opposed, motion is carried. It's now open for discussion. Any? Councilor Al, go ahead.
So, to add a full-time staff member to finance department, it doesn't really say, you know, what are we looking to do there in the finance department? What particularly, are you looking for an accountant in the finance department, or what are we looking for?
Mr. Walsh, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We can't put that in there because we don't know right now. So we have an interim CFO that will be applying for the position when it comes up again. If the interim CFO moves into CFO position, then we're going to be looking for a deputy CFO. If the interim CFO doesn't move into the CFO position, we're going to have a deputy CFO. So the position we're going to be looking to fill would be a union position as an accountant. So we don't know what it is we need right now.
Go ahead.
Just to add on to that, so this is something that I think us as council needs to take a good hard look at. Something in this budget, I don't know that any of you guys have thought about or talked about or had any concern about, but we don't have the actuals from 2015 right now. We are 3 months, almost 4 months into the year, and we don't have the actuals for 2015. And I talked to Mr. Wall about it, and his idea is that we needed to get the budget forward, so all their focus has been on the budget, but we don't have any actuals from last year. The reason that I've been given is they don't have enough staff time, they don't have enough people to get done what we're asking them to do. So if that's the case, we can do a much better budget process if we have the numbers from last year to look at. I think the previous budget from the year before, we talked about in 2015 that we were going to spend 16 or 17 million, and we ended up spending 10, 11, somewhere in that range. Is that fair to say?
So yeah,
Mr. Wall.
thank you, Councillor Howe. So you're correct. We don't have specific numbers enough to list down to the dollar, but we are looking at about a $6 million underspend from last year.
So I mean, that's something that we need to look at, right? That we had some opportunities here we didn't spend that large sum of money that we had as a council initiative when we first started, when we were designing the budget. And there were some other places along where staff had cut some money out. But the fact that we don't have those numbers now when we're doing our budget is an issue for me. And if that means that we have to bring a position on for $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 to have those numbers in here, we'll save far more money in the end, and they'll have less stress on their shoulders. So in my mind, this is something that we have to do. And I sure hope by adding this person that when we come looking for numbers and stuff that it isn't a large ordeal. It's something that can be produced in a rather timely fashion.
All right, sir, any further discussion? Councilor.
Thank you, Chair. Just on that, just to go ahead with Councilor Howe, I actually brought the same question this morning. So I heard the month of May, you can be seeing those. I brought the same question this morning.
Any further discussion? On the question on the motion, all those in favor of recommendation number 1 as stated? All those opposed, motion is carried. Recommendation number 2, council, staff includes part-time budgeting for a confidential secretary for the 2016 operating plan. And we appreciate a mover and a second of Councilor McKay. Move it, seconded by Councilor Kaka. Over discussion. Hearing none, I will call a question on the motion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, council. We're down to page 16, which is 3.5, a sample bylaw. Basically, recommendation here that council receives the report for information. Call for that, Councilor Kirby. Do I have a second? Thank you. It's open for discussion. Councilor McKay seconded. Mr. Wall, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. This is just providing council to give you guys a picture of what the bylaw will look like when we go to the meeting on May 2nd. If there's anything in here that you don't understand, please come and see me after the meeting. This isn't as straightforward as it would look. Expenses come in, expenses go out. We have PSAC rules to go through. So if there's anything you have questions on, feel free to come in. Because I know this isn't, it's not as easy as it looks. Then when you ask me the questions, I will likely turn you over to Chris and get him to answer them for you. So.
Any further discussion on that? Enough. We're now down to 3.6, fee for service and grant and aid for discussion and motion. And I believe, Councilor, how you have a motion that you'd like to put on the floor?
Yeah, just that council discusses reducing the committed grant and aid functions for 2016.
Right. Have a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Councilor McKay. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Mr. Howe.
So, through some discussion with Mr. Wall here in the last few days, I've asked him to get us a list of what we have approved for fee for service and grant and aid. And do you have that list available, Mr. Wall?
I do, and if council passes the motion for this to enter discussion, then I can give it to council.
Right, do I have any further comments? I have a couple, if I might. My understanding that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Wall, that the grant and aid applications have been approved previously, and they have also been, the recipients have also been notified to that effect. Is that information correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
So in terms of going back now at this particular point in time and telling those granted aid applicants that have been advised that they have received the dollars in the confirmation by council, seems to me to be unfair. So the question that I have for council with regards to that, if that information has been approved, communicated to the grant and aid applicants, the question comes to me, why would we reopen it at this particular point in time? And I think that's a question that we should put on the floor to see if there's an appetite on council to do just that. I don't think that that's a wise thing to do. So those are my comments. Councillor Howe, go ahead, sir. Oh, I'm sorry, then Councillor McKay, Councillor McKay.
So I'm not under the same impression that all this is signed, sealed, and delivered. I'm under the impression there are some that we still have some variation on. I thought, for instance, like the trail clearing thing is something that we still have some say in. We haven't even built the committee for it yet, so the fact that we've already committed $75,000 to it is something that we can pull back and look at. That's what I thought. Perhaps there are others, that's why I was looking for the list. My problem with this is that we have committed to $850,000 of grant and aid fee for service. We've more than doubled the amount that we did last year, and we didn't know that until the end of the budgeting process. So why in the future would we ever approve to give anybody money before we've looked at the entire budget? I don't like the process that now we're committed to $800,000 without having an opportunity at the end of the budget to say, you know what, we put too much of this in, we need to take some out. You know, this staff was able to decrease their budget by 1.5%, 4%, whatever it turns out to be. We've managed to increase ours by 100%. Right? We got to take a good look in the mirror here, everybody on this, to see if there's some way we can carve ours down a little bit. You know, to tell you the truth, I was under the impression that a lot of this stuff went into the budget and was not completely spent. I was under the impression that we'd put it into the budget, we'd discuss it further on, and then we'd say, yeah, geez, sorry, we can't give you $200,000 this year. We can give you $180. We can't give you this. We got to take some back. That's my impression on it. And if there is nowhere in there that we can take it back without hardship or hurting anybody's feelings, my impression for next year is why would I ever approve it ahead of the budget?
Okay, fair enough. Mr. Wall, do you have any comments on that?
No, I think the council's having a good discussion.
Fair enough. And again, the point that I want to emphasize is that if there's a feeling amongst council members that this was not handled properly, then that's, to me, is something that we can address in the future, and next year when we're going through the grant and aid applications and so forth. But I have a real concern about the fact that it was dealt with, it was discussed, and that information, again, I'm going on the basis that that was communicated, and as far as the individual applicants are concerned, I'm sure that they, A, count on it, B, they may even made some moves with regards to doing their business as they saw fit. So I have a real problem with doing it, changing that when council's already deliberated and discussed the subject. But I had Councillor Mackay and Councillor Kirkapa.
Yeah, first.
I'd like to talk to Mike when you get a chance.
All right, sir, thank you. I'll get to you. Councillor Mackay.
Did Mayor McPherson want to have a few remarks first?
Well, you go ahead.
Okay. I sure welcome this discussion because I think it's overdue, and it was one that I was hoping we get to prior to the final deliberation of budget. But I think it's, we have made motions, we have passed motions. One that comes to mind is $100,000 for the snowmobile club. That I'm not sure what their plans are right now, but they may very well be out there looking for a piece of machinery that's in that neighborhood. And not only that group, there's all the different groups that we have passed the approval on are under the same impression. So I think it's ethically wrong for us to go back and say that, okay, wait a minute, we're going to change our mind. I will not be in favor of doing anything like that, but definitely make sure that the rules are set in stone by this time next year, so that we know exactly what we're doing, we know what the rules are, and we know how much money we're going to, what the percentage of our tax dollars we're going to spend on grant and aid and things like that.
All right, sir.
So, but as for going back to the groups we've already said yes to, I don't like that.
All right, thank you. Councillor Kirkapa.
Thank you, Chair. My understanding there was that we added these into our budget and nothing was approved until the budget was approved. So they're added in there so we have dollar figures to play with and talk about. But nothing was approved to these groups until the budget was passed. I know there's some of the fee for service that were 3 years, but like whether it's the snowmobile club or the saddle club or all these, I thought the discussion that night was in regards to adding to the budget and coming back before approval. Like the budget's not even approved.
Mr. Wall, your comments, sir.
I guess I would make 2 comments on that. At the beginning of this budget process, I relayed to council that, you know, the timeline we had, and that the fact that when we were going through the budget, we were going to be making decisions at those times, and those decisions would carry on, and we wouldn't have time to get back. So, on that sense, it was communicated to council that we'd be looking for decisions, and we wouldn't be looking to go back on those decisions that were made in order to create the budget. So that's one sense of it. The other sense of it, I would say, is we took a look at the fee-for-service and grant and aid policy, and we can't find anything in there that would that in the policy to allow that to happen. So what I would say to council is when you're discussing these things as a board of governors, as a councillor for the municipality, you need to be aware and cognizant of the policies that you're operating under. These are your policies, the rules you set down for yourselves. So on the larger question of it, I've reached out to a number of people that I could during the day, and nobody's been able to give me an answer because of the people that I've talked to, they're not aware of the situation having happened in their knowledge. So the contracts with these groups that were approved in 2016 haven't been signed. The motions have been passed. Those groups may have made steps to undertake and spend that money based on the motions that were approved, because in your policy, that's what's required. The motion is made and they're approved. So if they took those steps based on your policy, I am not sure, and the people I have spoken to are not sure, of the legal liability that the district and council would have to go back and take that money, or reduce that money. We don't know, and I don't know. And the people I was able to, this just came up yesterday, maybe with more time I can figure out the answer, but the people I've spoken to don't know either.
Thank you. Mr. McPherson.
Yeah, I missed some important meetings. I support all the council's decisions in those meetings. I agree with Councillor Howe that we've got to look at, in the future, ways of maybe cutting this back. And I would suggest we do that next year, but you need to let these groups know by the way of a letter that we are really looking at cutting back fee-for-service and some of these special projects and that. So, because we're getting to a time that I think we have to do that. So, I'm not sure that I agree with going back on decisions, but I do agree we got to have a hard look at this.
All right, thank you, sir. And Councillor Kirby, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I've been pretty clear with the way staff has directed how the process has been going. I think the eye-opener is if you're going to look at the services that, you know, the municipality is supposed to provide compared to what we do on the other side by giving fee-for-services and supporting our groups in town, is just kind of a reflection of what kind of community we are. And we do spend a lot, and we should look at that. And I think the efficiency review is going to give us some suggestions there. I think when you look at the quality of life that we give the residents, I think that's something to be proud of with this council. But if it's going to be something that we got to look at cutting, there's definitely some room with our fee-for-service. And I think finding a good, looking at how we have that set up, is something we should look at. But I definitely think for this year it would be something that I wouldn't be in support of making any changes to.
Thank you very much. And again, Council, I'm going to go around the table one more time. Is there any other thoughts that have not as yet been expressed? Councillor Howe, go ahead, sir.
So I would like to take a look at them individually. Okay, don't discuss them as a group, discuss them individually. And all this is an opportunity for Jordan to put them on the table in front of us and say, here are all the ones you approved. There may be ones we look at immediately and we go, yeah, we're not going to go down that road at all. But there may be other ones on there, like, I cannot understand why the trail clearing, we haven't even created a committee yet. We've committed $75,000 to it. Why we cannot change trail clearing? Why can we not do that? Another one is at the, last night we approved $30,000 extra for the library. Why can we not go back and look at that? Have they spent that $30,000 from yesterday to today? $160,000 is approved for the Chamber of Commerce. Did they spend that money last night? Like, I don't understand why we cannot go back and have a quick look at these things. If there's anything on there that feels like it's going to be a legal fight or it's going to cost us a pile of money to get out of, no problem. My thing is you're giving this money to these groups. Why can you not go back and say, listen guys, we've gone over, we looked at the budget, we think we've probably overspent, we can't give you the whole $160,000, we want to dial it back by 10%, we want to take $16,000 out of it. Figure out what you're going to do for it. If they say no, absolutely not, okay, fine. Then I guess next year we'll see which way we're going to do it. But for my vote, I will never ever approve anything ahead of the budget ever again.
Well, that's fair enough, and that's certainly your decision. But any further comment? All right. Councillor Mackay, go ahead, sir.
I think a lot of decisions we made, and we're comparing ourselves with other communities, and definitely are way above what they put out per year. But one of the things that we've done, and we've done it, I don't know, maybe we've overstepped a little bit, but we've followed our strategic planning, which, and the emphasis is a lot of it on tourist related, on the tourist industry. And that's something you're not gonna see in a lot of the other communities, they won't invest as heavily as we have. And that's one of the reasons why I think that our percentage is skewed. And that's just something that wasn't brought up before by my original statement. That doesn't change my mind.
All right, Mr. Wall, you have a comment, sir?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I just want to thank Mr. Leggett for bringing this to my attention. Throughout the year, council has waived your fee-for-service and grant and aid policy a number of times for groups that did not meet the financial needs requirement in your policy. Throughout the year, this will be coming back to you, and if there's, during that time when it comes back to you, you would be well within your rights, well within your policy, no legal liability on the district at that time to say you are not meeting the financial needs requirement of the district, you have more money than you need, you don't need it from, we're not gonna give you the payments for X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3, 4. That was done with a number of groups throughout the year, and so at this point, there's notice, when it comes up for the quarterly review, council will have that option once more.
Is there anything, new items that we haven't discussed, comments on this issue? Councillor Howell, go ahead, sir.
One more. So between our fee-for-service grant and aid and the money that we give to the golf course, we spend more money than we collect from the entire residential tax collection. Let that sink in for a second. If this is not worth the second look at, maybe I'm in the wrong seat here.
Okay, anything further on the subject? There's a motion on the floor, could you repeat the motion back to us, please?
Could I ask Councillor Howell to read it? I think you have it.
Right, I'm sorry.
Well,
Councillor
I'm
Howell?
looking for the, for council to discuss reducing the committed grant and aid functions for 2016.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on any comments that haven't yet been made? I'll call a question on the motion. All those, I'm sorry, repeat the motion again. I'm sorry.
That council has a discussion on the 2016 grant and aid commitments.
Fair enough. Council, that's the motion that is on the floor, been moved and seconded. I'll call a question on the motion. All those in favor of the motion? All those opposed?
I'm opposed.
Opposed, the motion is defeated. Okay, council, we're now down to,
Just a point of order, Chair, just on that, weren't we already just discussing it?
the motion on the floor that was made and seconded, and that motion has been defeated. That ends the motion.
But we were discussing before the motion is what I'm getting at. Before we voted on the motion, we were already discussing it.
We're trying to discuss why we should bring it forward.
My bad, sorry.
All right? Gotcha. Okay, council, we're now down to question and answer period, I believe. And we'll go to Gabby if there's any questions. Paula?
I have two comments. One comment is, and I don't know how this impacts other groups, but I know that the other libraries in the area get a substantial grant from PRRD, from the regional district itself. Because of Tumblr's unusual situation in that group, we don't receive any kind of grant. So for example, Fort St. John, in addition to the money it gets from its municipality and the tiny grant that we all get from the province, they get a grant from Peace River Regional District. That's well over $100,000. So just, I don't know if that's part of why our grant and aid and fee-for-service list is so much higher. I don't know if there are other organizations in similar situations, but certainly the municipality has to contribute more to the library here than in the other communities. Second thing, the library is neither a grant and aid or a fee-for-service organization. The library is a municipal library established by a municipal bylaw in 2012 and therefore part of the corporate budget, the core services budget. So we're not a grant and aid or fee-for-service any longer.
Thank you. Any further questions from the council? Hearing none. Mr. Ernst? Nothing, sir? Fair enough. Council, I would then ask for a motion to adjourn. Councilor Kirby, thank you. Councilor Kai, discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, Don.